Hello, hello.
Hello.
Hi, Mina.
Hi, Sophie. How are you?
Fine. Oh my God, you're in an exciting location, it seems, because we hear you far away.
Oh, I hope you can hear me okay. I have the microphone here next to me.
Yeah. No, like we tested the sound, so it should be okay. But of course, we're dealing with, the wonderful lives of modern people being teleworking a bit, and that's perfectly fine. So, welcome everyone. We are
Exactly.
so, yeah, delighted, right?
Exactly. Welcome, everyone. And thank you so much for being with us today for this next Flourish Financially Money conversation. And of course, whether you're joining us live or maybe you might be watching the replay later, we're really happy to see you here. My name is Nina Schmidt. I am a financial coach, also a certified financial planner, and the co-founder of Flourish Financially. I support women, particularly busy professional women, in building financial clarity, confidence, long-term security.
Yes, amazing. And I'm Sophie, Dr. Sophie, for some of you. I'm a certified life coach and positive psychology practitioner. I specialize in emotional intelligence, leadership, and also financial psychology. So my work focuses on supporting women, often in demanding careers or life transitions, to navigate change with more clarity, with confidence, with self trust. Together with Mina, we created Flourish Financially, which is really a community of women where we converse about money and we see that it goes beyond spreadsheets and strategy. We really make room for emotions, for identity, for relationships, for meaning. So, for all the things that matter when we think about flourishing.
Exactly. And today we are going to do something a little bit special, right, Sophie?
Yes. And by the way, so it's our 20th money conversation.
20, right? That's quite a milestone. If you would have told me, Sophie, when we were just getting started, which was, I think, back in 2024,
Yeah.
we would get to number 20. I'm not sure if I would have believed it right away.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe not. I mean, before anything else, we use this space to say thank you. Of course, thank you, Mina. Thank you, everyone who is joining us, maybe watching the replay, for showing up, for bringing your questions, for bringing your skepticism as well, sometimes, your own stories, for sure, as always. And really, this community is what's making us to continue to do this. And we want to continue to do this indeed.
Exactly. And because it is a special episode, kind of the number 20, we wanted to also do something a bit different, something we've actually never done before on this, right?
Oh, Mina, you're breaking in and out, so I hope we can still roll with it. But indeed, as you say, we wanted to do something different this time. And what we decided is, instead of tackling a classical topic like we did in the past, such as money and kids, financial freedom, we talked about, today we're going to be talking about money philosophies. And what we decided is we're going to think about 6 philosophies that have really touched us on the way. And they're coming from real moments in our lives where we learn something. And it's not necessarily about theory that we read somewhere and that we share today.
So hope you can hear me. I know the connection is not somehow the best, but tell me, Sophie, if it's not bearable, then we will try to do something. But just the one thing I wanted to mention is that we will be also sharing a little something for you at the end, which is a full copy of our Inspiring Money Philosophies guide, which has even more philosophies than what we're going to be discussing tonight, and also reflection prompts for each one of them. So we'll share the link, and you can see it here on the screen, right? So you can get this guidebook for even more inspiration.
Yes, of course. And so please also, you can use the chat for the whole way. We don't always are able to respond to everything directly, but we like to make this interactive. And we always love seeing the reactions as we go. So you'll see it's really a conversation. It's meant to be also inspiring for everybody there. So if there's anything you want to ask, also put it there, and we'll probably pick it up at some point in the conversation.
Yes, very good. So let's go to the topic actually. So why this topic and why
That's
now?
right. Yeah, good question. Well, we have named it Fresh. I'm going to go to the right slide, right? We named it Fresh Philosophies for your financial life. So partly because it's the summer, and depending where you are joining us from, for sure there might be a bit of a need of a fresh, cooling patch, just today, for example. But it's also about, of course, something more. It's about fresher thinking. And it's possible that because it's the summer, it allows us to have a bit more spaciousness as well than usual, at least, in how we sit with certain questions or how we think about certain subjects instead of purely reacting.
Yes. It is also, of course, partly because this work that is never really finished. It's not something you do just once and tick a box and move on. I am seeing a comment actually from our audience, from Beatrice, saying that she cannot hear me properly. So maybe, do you want to continue, Sophie, quickly? And I try to just maybe try with my phone to connect on it so that the connection would be better.
Okay.
So the people can
Yeah,
hear.
no problem.
Just a second. I will be back.
Of course, of course. So, yeah, as we were saying, the idea is it's not something that you tick once and for all. It's really work that's ongoing for many of us. As we grow, as our life change, our relationship with money will need revisiting as well. It's a bit like almost a massage that you would return to season after season, rather than really trying a single fix, if we can say like that. So if we want to really define the terms of what we're talking about today, because we're saying philosophies, it might be worth to frame this a little bit. In fact, what we want to say with philosophy is really inviting people to think about money in a different way, but also think about how they think about money. And most of us are walking around with what we call money scripts. So it's really beliefs about money that were not necessarily consciously chosen. We inherited it, we picked it up somewhere from a parent, from a culture, maybe. Sometimes it's about hard moments that were not necessarily unpacked in the moment. And they taught us something that is sticking with us. Hey, Mina. There's a bit of an yes at the moment, but the sound is better.
Okay, let me see. Can you see me okay somehow?
We can hear you. Yeah.
You can at least hear me, and I guess I'm somehow visible as well. Just not as the best angle, but at least somehow.
You're much leaner. It's good. Very nice. Welcome.
Apologies about that. The tech gremlins are sometimes here, right?
No
So let's
problem.
continue. Sorry for that, but hope the sound is now better so we can continue.
Yeah, much better. I think the point was about introducing people to the difference between money script and money philosophy. So scripts, on one hand, would be the ones that are with us, but maybe were never examined. They are playing
Mhm.
almost like script in the background. And because they were never examined, as we say, they run. And they also, even without us having examined them, are running a bit how we decide, how we act, in fact.
Yeah, and it is actually the opposite of that, the philosophy, right? It's
Yeah.
a belief that we choose on purpose because we actually looked at it and we thought about it and decided that this is something that can really serve us and support us.
Yes. So to be clear, also here, it's not about excavating, really super unconscious or subconscious beliefs that we've had, all of them, because there's gonna be some of it that's gonna still sit below our level of awareness, and that's fine. But part of the thought work is really about peeling like the layers of an onion. And we do that indeed layer by layer. So we uncover, for example, today, or as we go through this work on our relationship with money, what we're ready to uncover. And we can be surprised, but it's often thoughts that we've carried with us on the way, maybe since childhood, and that's already meaningful progress.
Yeah, exactly. And I would say like a philosophy is rarely just like a single specific belief or two or three sentences, but it's more like kind of a whole belief system, right? Lots of smaller thoughts that fit together in some way, kind of like a puzzle piece that's supporting you.
Yeah, I love the puzzle example because we're going to see that actually as we illustrate with our own examples how they also overlap a little bit, right? So we're talking about almost, as you say, a chosen picture, a puzzle, it's almost a belief system. And yeah, I mean, that's the good part of it because it means that even when we think about our own philosophies, we are actually looking at right now, but it's something that is taking us to the next step, wherever we want to go next.
Mm. Yes, especially when you have like those moments where you're kind of moving to something new, like you're starting a business or you're choosing maybe to stop working, choosing to go back to work, deciding what you want to teach your kids about money, or maybe a new relationship, or taking care of someone, a separation. I mean, all of these big changes that kind of ripple out from our relationships and our life stages and circumstances, right? That's where it really comes to play, these philosophies.
Yeah. And so, in all those moments, it's almost like we want to ask ourselves, how do I want to relate to money on purpose rather than just reacting the way I always have?
Yeah, so that's what we're going to do tonight, right? Yeah, 6 philosophies and the stories behind them. And we would invite you also to really, as we go through them, like reflect which ones you would maybe choose for yourself, right?
Yeah. So let's get into it.
Let's do it. So, Sophie, you're up first. What is the first principle and why did you choose this one?
Yeah. I'm just, sorry, checking if we have any more comments. So this one is about, really, it's almost a foundational one. So it's something that quietly runs underneath almost everything else, at least I think. And I know that where I grew up, I was told that money doesn't grow on trees. So it's seemingly sensible advice on the face of it, but it also can plant a question, and it did that for me. That took years to really ask out loud, which is, okay, well then it doesn't grow on trees, so where does it come from? And
Oh,
very
yeah,
often,
exactly.
yeah. And when we don't have an answer, what happens is that we start to fill in the gaps, right?
Exactly. When we're kids, when we're children, right? Money just kind of appears from our parents. And how do our parents get it? Well, for most of us, we see maybe they are going to work, that part, right?
Yeah, and I think it's about like watching, of course, our parents go off and earn money, but it's also about what they tell when they're doing that. There are lots of interesting expression and words, right? In French, we say gagner de l'argent, which is really to win money. I mean, it means to earn money, but it's the same word than winning. So you would be also like, okay, really, like, how do you play to win this money? But it's also about this idea that it's handed out somewhere in exchange
Mm,
of effort, in exchange of time, for sure, when our parents are not with us
mm,
as they're doing that thing called work. And
mhm,
we almost never hear the question or think about money in the way of, okay, so how do I create money, right? Not like how do I get it, but how do I create it? So I know that there was a prompt that I was given in a coaching context when I started working on my relationship with money, and it was very powerful. It stayed with me. So I want to propose it here to the audience just to see what comes up. But what do you think you have to give in exchange for money? I'd actually invite
mm.
everyone listening now to maybe try to answer this in the chat, for example, or for themselves without overthinking it. Maybe we give just a few seconds if someone wants to type really quickly. What do you think comes up, Mina, for example?
Yeah, it's probably, yeah, some version of this, like you have to work hard for the money, right? That was kind of
Mhm.
the
Okay,
what
so
we
there's
were
a hard,
told, right?
not only work, but hard.
Yeah.
We can note that. Time. Yeah, I see.
And
You
what
have.
we have comments from people on the line. So time. Oh, sorry. I think I pressed it away. Time or ideas. Yeah. So good ideas. That's actually a nice one. Not just time, but ideas as well.
Mm,
And we have a comment from Salma as well, which is, I think, oopsie, saying hello from Morocco. I really relate to what you're saying. And yeah, relationship with money starts very early. That's
yeah,
very true. It's really something that happens in early childhood already, and the discussions we have with our parents, that's really something that shapes it very much.
for sure.
And also from Salma, you should deserve it. Yeah,
Yeah, this idea
that's
that.
the deep one.
Mm. So, I mean, I'm gonna cut this short because I mean that can be one to think also among friends and whatever to see we can debate about this. But for most of us, it's true that there's often this natural answer that comes quickly with effort, with sweat, almost energy, hours, time, work.
Yes, that certainly was my version of it too.
So what happens? I mean, because it was the same for me as I grew up and I learned that. So what happens then is that if I want to earn more, then I assume that I simply have to work more or harder or longer hours, sweat some more for more. And so the shift that we propose here is really that money is okay, maybe it was something that when I say it feels really simple because many people can intellectualize that, but in reality, to really internalize it is not necessarily so straightforward. So the
Mm,
point is not it's not about the quantity of hours or time or effort. It's really about the quality of what I am putting out there in the world. So it's not really the equation time and effort in exchange of money per hour, but really what's the value that I create through something that I do indeed, and that I
mm,
can then propose in exchange for a fair, agreement, price, contractual, regular pay, for example.
mm. Interesting. And how did that then actually show up for you in practice in your life?
Yes, it's of course the super interesting point is what happens then. And what has really changed for me is now to focus much more on indeed the value that I create. So I ask myself, what can I really propose as concrete value outcome, something that is valuable for the person that I'm trying to serve? So this is something we can do when we work with an employer. For example, what's my value created for my employer, and try to really think about that. And it also means I need to take care of that potential for value creation if I want to grow. So I'm much more, intentional in investing in keeping myself, sharp for increasing that and continuing to develop those value creation skills. I've also decided that it's important to share that even in client-facing contexts. So very concretely, there's one example that I wanted to share. Might be interesting for people who are also entrepreneurs or working with clients, for example, is I decided I will really change the way I talk about the pricing in my own coaching conversations. And I deliberately almost decorrelated the package that I offer from really the concept of an hourly fee. So sometimes the topic comes in the conversation, what's the hourly price that you're working for? And I make a conscious decision to explain it's not about an hourly fee, it's really about the value of the concrete total package of being supported through coaching. So what's the value of the change you will get through the coaching approach that is actually the conversation. And it's not about the number of minutes that we are together when we are having a conversation. And it also means that it's putting me as a professional in the responsible position of responsibility to keep investigating for my clients where I actually bring the most value and to stay open when that shifts.
Yeah, of course. And there's also kind of important to have like the boundaries in place, right? I know you feel quite strongly about that.
Yeah. So I wanted to say it clearly, it's really important to keep in mind that none of this means that I'm tying my self-worth to my wealth, in the sense that when I'm proposing something of value to a client or an employer, it's not about me as a person, my self-worth as a human. Money really would be then the reflection of that value that I'm putting out there, but it's not about me identifying with that. And when we do that, partially or a bit too much, it can be a road to burnout almost, but for sure to anxiety, because then we're really making that mean what it should not necessarily mean. So the question is, when somebody is not accepting my offer, maybe I haven't communicated the value properly, or maybe I need to go back to the drawing board and create more of that value that my client really wants. So it's important to do that. We've all seen, I think, both in our respective coaching businesses, people that can have that issue with over-identifying with that pricing element, whatever it is, or the salary, and it can really detrimental to their mental health. So it's important to keep that in mind.
Very interesting. Well, should we move on to number 2? What do you think?
Absolutely. And this one will be for you, right? So it's about money being a multiplier, not a solution. Tell us why this one would be yours to discuss.
Yeah, I think that this philosophy of money is a multiplier, not a solution. It resonated with me because I used to work in finance, as many of the people here know as well, and I've really met people across the entire wealth spectrum, let's say. And it's kind of easy to assume that once you reach a certain income or a certain level of wealth, your financial worries will all disappear. But that's rarely what I observed. And the people who actually have a kind of healthy relationship with money before they become wealthier, they generally continue to have one. But there's also people who are more driven by fear, perhaps scarcity, or kind of the need to prove themselves. And they often find that more money simply kind of magnifies those emotions. And that was quite a powerful realization for me, kind of that money is an amplifier. It's not a kind of cure in itself. And of course, the core idea for context, for people listening, is that money doesn't it's just a neutral tool. It doesn't create anything new in us. It kind of amplifies what's already there. So if you're stressed about money when you don't have a lot of it, typically you might just stay as stressed even if you have more of it, right? If you feel unworthy now, wealth won't actually really change that. It may actually even turn the volume up, right?
Yeah, it's so interesting. And I'm just actually curious to hear from you if there was maybe a moment when for you it stopped being something you notice, in others or you were curious about, but it became something that you were like, okay, I really believe it now.
Hmm. Yeah, I guess, I remember working with women who kind of actually objectively saying they had really made it. They had a great career, they had investments, they had finances that, if anyone would be looking at it from the outside, people would say, wow, like she has it, or people would aspire to this. But some of them were still feeling very anxious about money. Um, Almost as if they would be living at the edge of survival, even though they, objectively speaking, didn't really have any problems, right? So they were not worried because they didn't have enough money, but they were worried because this kind of fear was had kind of become their default setting. It was coming from inside, right? And that's kind of a click to me somehow, right? That the financial planning is obviously very good to do that, and it can solve financial problems, but it cannot solve necessarily the emotional ones. So you need to work on both sides, right?
Ah, wow, yeah, that's such a useful reframe because I think many of us have hoped or are hoping somehow, quietly, a bit unconsciously, that money will fix something in us. But in fact, it's something in us that isn't really about money at all.
Yeah, indeed. And for me, at least, it kind of personally changed how I defined financial success. I still firmly believe in wealth and financial freedom, planning carefully. Like that's what I do, right? That's why my profession. But I don't really necessarily see wealth as a destination. And for me, the financial planning is about creating more freedom and more options, more choices, not chasing a particular number. And also, I realized that I want to be like much more intentional about my own motivations. Am I just making some kind of financial decision because it aligns with my goals, or is there some kind of am I just reacting because of a fear, or trying to prove something to someone? So those were kind of the things that it made me realize.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot, right? I mean, a few layers of the onion. But would you maybe illustrate or care to illustrate now if there was a specific financial change, maybe a raise, a client, or a drop in income or something like that, that kind of tested this belief also for you?
Yeah, I think so. I think I still try to remind myself of this principle. For example, whenever there's a change in my financial situation, you're an entrepreneur, so you have some great months and less great ones, right? I try to really pause before I attach any meaning to it. if I have a good month, it doesn't make me any more valuable. And if I have a slow month, it doesn't make me less capable, right? So instead of reacting kind of emotionally, I try to come back to my plan and this inner feeling of safety, looking back at the bigger picture, what are the decisions I can control? And I try to really cultivate that for myself and, of course, with the women that I work to. I would say that would be it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really an interesting one, right? So maybe let's go to the third one now, and
Yes.
we can move to the next slide as well.
So, Sophie, this one is for you, right? This is about releasing resentment towards money and wealth. It's a very interesting one as well, as they all are, right? It's a big
Yeah,
one for you.
it's a big one. I think it's a big one for quite a few people, but yes, for sure, certainly, it rings a bell in terms of, again, like how I was raised and what I learned without necessarily noticing it at the time. And for many of us, it can take quite a long time to properly uncover. And underneath, there can be also a fair amount of cognitive dissonance, because if we are in position, like for entrepreneurship, where we want to grow in wealth, it's important to realize that maybe what we aspire to with a certain part of our brain might be like the contrary to what our other part of the brain, the more reactive one, is used to think. So how can we cope with that? How can we notice it and help ourselves? And here I'm really talking about the R word. That's how I said it. So R being
Go on. What is our word?
rich, being rich.
Rich.
And
Yeah.
I'm curious to hear
Yeah.
what people will maybe share with us in the chat. But it's a question worth sitting with. So I'm gonna ask it openly, and it can be a little bit triggering for some of us. So here it goes. The question is: do you want to be rich, and why? And to try and answer that question really openly can be extremely revealing. So anybody with us might be wanting to answer. Another one that goes in parallel is really trying to put yourself in the position of overhearing a conversation that somebody is having about you, and that person would be saying, yes, Mina or Sophie, she's very rich. And what comes up when we imagine somebody talking about us in that way? Would we be actually happy? Would we be glad that people are saying that about us?
Oh, this is really triggering indeed, right?
It can be.
It can be. Those two questions alone could take the whole hour of discussions, right? Discussion, right?
Yeah, so that's just a taster, of course, and feel free for everybody here to, try to think about it and maybe write about it, what is coming up. But for me, really growing up, that helped me to realize that I heard a lot of, if I can say, antagonizing comments about what we would call people with money, in between quotes. And that's really how it was talked about in my circle, I could say. And I think it came also from a certain pride of having come from very little to a place where we weren't missing anything. So I'm very conscious of the words I'm using. It's really about narrating what I heard and what came to my brain as being almost this script, right? So we weren't missing of anything. We were solidly comfortable, but clearly also we were not part of that group of people with money, right? We were clearly not wealthy, not rich. We would never use that phrase to describe us. And one of the reasons for that was part of this puzzle, right, of the reasoning, was also that actually having money creates worries. So you better not have too much. And also, you can't take it with you to the grave. I mean, it used to be in my family to the hole, so you cannot take it to the hole with you. And of course, money doesn't buy happiness. So
classic.
yeah. So in fact, underneath, there was also a certain resentment I could hear against people who had more than us, and a certain degree of thinking about the fact that they wouldn't be trustworthy. I understood that also there was probably some bit of monkey business behind how, again, these people got it. And surely they had many problems, as I said. So that was like the picture. They weren't necessarily really happy anyway. So that's like really the story, the picture I had.
Yeah, and to me that resonates a lot, right? Where I was growing up in Finland, it's very much a culture where you shouldn't show off. Modesty is definitely the value. And there's also kind of, I mean, in a way, very much equality, everyone at the same level, and nobody should be like, if you're very wealthy, you're somehow very suspicious. But later on, I also lived in the US, which has a bit different culture around it, where you can be a bit more proud as well if you've achieved something, and that's okay, right? And to talk about how you're earning a great income, for example. So it's kind of two perspectives. But how was it for you, actually? What shifted that perspective then?
Yeah. Actually, one person really played an important role in shifting that perspective, because it created inside me, again, this dissonance. Because in fact, these are just perspective, right? And we can choose whether we want or don't want to believe that we are rich or to aspire to become rich. It's really something that's up to us. So in my late teens, I met my uncle, and he was wealthy, and he was really not ashamed of it at all, which was for me strange already at that time. He had a very interesting life story where he studied medicine, then he worked in finance, then he'd done an MBA in the early 80s, so it was not that common, I would say. And he also created his own business from there. So it's true that next to the financial education that I'd gotten at home, what I described just before, it was frankly really detonating. It was a really different approach. And both he and my aunt really welcomed me and my sister in a way into their world. I mean, although we were not with them all the time, but sometimes, and they didn't have kids. Mm-hmm. So I got to watch a bit close up how differently they related to money. There were many things, but here I'm going to maybe talk about a few things that are in relation to this money philosophy. But it's true, I remember that I brought a lot of suspicion at the beginning. I was really watching, thinking, what is going on here? It's a bit strange. In fact, it softened over time. And I remember he used to ask me, for example, questions about financial freedom. I mean, he didn't name it like that, but he was questioning me around numbers, around how much I would like to earn, around how much I would need to never have to work again. So these were questions that I was so completely shocked by hearing those questions. I didn't know what to answer. He also told me I could do anything, and that he saw that I was really uneasy around money, and I think he was trying to push me towards a bit more agency. So he helped me to get to. He really tried to allow me to take permission to spend money on myself as well, which was a bit of a difficult thing for me. And also he ended a lot of his conversation with very generous sentence that I've never heard anywhere else spoken to me, which was, Do you need anything, darling?
I love that line. That must have felt, very special to you as a teenager or a young adult, right?
Well, it was making me a bit, again, uneasy because, as you heard, with all my like suspicions, I was also thinking, what's behind that? Like, why is he asking me that? Like, I was not really at ease with all of that, I must say. But I can see now, it's almost like that was planting some of the seeds, right, of my evolution later. So indeed, like both he and my aunt, like they talked about money. They talked a lot about money for me, it seemed. But it was never in a tainted, careful way, how I was hearing it more at home. And I can really see now how actually a lot of our society maybe carries bias in both direction, right? It can be bias towards the rich, it can be sometimes bias towards the poor, whatever that means, right? Either categories. And really releasing that resentment was essential if I wanted to grow up financially, especially when I went towards creating my business, but even before, to just be able to grow into a more autonomous financial person. So I think it's true for many of us that we haven't always examined these kind of beliefs, and they can be pretty sneaky in the background, preventing us from going where we want. So it's important to know that, because if we don't look at this honestly, it can really sabotage our efforts to, I don't know, earn more, to expand. And actually, it can go much beyond the subject of money, because it's about having compassion, for who we are and what we desire, and the fact that maybe we desire more, and that's totally okay.
That's such an important one and so relevant to so many women, especially. Absolutely. So let's maybe we should go on to the next one, but maybe we can also ask from the audience, because now we went through 3 of these philosophies. While we start with the next one, we had so far, which one do you actually relate to at the moment, or maybe recognizing in you? It would be interesting to hear from you, right?
Yes, absolutely. And so as we continue the explanation on the philosophies, because we know it's quite deep, it's also quite some personal information, but maybe it rings a bell for you too. If you want to share anything in the chat, please do. We love hearing other people's story. We saw a thumb up, so I guess that's a good sign. And let's move to the next one. So
Yeah. Sorry,
one,
go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say this one is also close to something that a lot of women carry. This idea that there's a ceiling beyond which we cannot let ourselves go. We cannot go beyond this one in terms of earnings.
Yes, this is also quite a deep one. Indeed, it's kind of basically stating that our biggest financial limitations are often not coming from the external environment or from our life circumstances, but they're actually internal. And I like this concept of kind of thinking about the money thermostat, or the thermostat in your house, right? So the principle is, like, if you have set a certain temperature for your house, right? If the temperature goes too high, which it tends to do these days, it's summertime, right? Then the thermostat is working automatically to bring it back down. And if it goes too low as well, it's going to bring us back up to that level, which is the target. And many of us have kind of this money thermostat internally, right? We have sort of internally a certain level of wealth or a certain level of income, financial success, or even visibility that kind of feels familiar to us. It feels safe to us. And whenever we kind of move beyond that, our subconscious often tends to find some way to pull us back. Like, let's say, a very simple example, if someone receives like surprising amount of money, maybe a bonus or something like that, it suddenly feels like, oh, I have kind of too much money on my bank account. And you suddenly start spending it more freely, almost subconsciously, until you're back kind of to the starting point, right? So you're back to the level you were originally at. And the idea here is that the amount that we kind of allow ourselves to make or to earn is often dictated by a kind of glass ceiling. Sometimes it's self-imposed, but sometimes we learned it, inherited it when we were growing up. And for a lot of women, there's a specific belief in there, which is kind of that earning too much is somehow selfish or greedy, or that we are not capable of that, right? That's the idea.
So interesting. And do you think you recognize that also in yourself, this belief?
Yeah, absolutely. Mine was maybe not kind of so much about that earning money itself would be wrong, but it was that I have to work incredibly hard to deserve it. And there was also kind of this discomfort around charging what I was actually worth, or saying ambitious income goals out loud, kind of what you were talking a bit about earlier as well. And this comes down to, when I was growing up, I absorbed a lot of these messages that you should be modest, you should not stand out too much, not ask too much. It was not necessarily made in a malicious way, but it's just a part of the culture. But they come to be kind of the rules that you live by, right? And I think for me, it translated somehow into that I was putting always incredibly high standards for myself, and not believing that the value I was providing would be worth that much. So it kind of comes back to the first one you said, and that inner feeling of what I deserve, what I'm worth. And kind of once I became aware of that there was this thermostat, I started seeing the impact everywhere, right? It wasn't that there's no opportunities, but it was that I was unconsciously believing something else, and kind of making myself smaller to stay within that container that felt comfortable.
Yeah, it's really fascinating, right? But what would you say changed then for you when you started to expand, if I understand this concept, your capacity? Also, sorry, maybe what made you change concretely? Actually, how did you go about doing that, expanding?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big transformation, obviously, over time. But maybe one of the things was just to allow myself to kind of think bigger before I knew exactly how it would happen. At some point, I even used like more this like mantras or manifestation, to just kind of tell myself like it is safe for me to earn. It's safe for me to get wealthy, and that kind of inner beliefs, like it really changes something. I became more intentional about it. It was about, of course, the pricing my work, but also investing in my own growth, saying yes to some kind of opportunities that felt a bit too big or a bit too scary. So these kind of things, and I would say that even now the work is not yet finished, right? So I'm still working on this. And the interesting thing is that actually the external results kind of follow when you shift internally. So it doesn't happen overnight, but somehow this capacity and this abundance had to expand first. And then it was also comfortable to start, working on my wealth at new levels, or, expanding my business into that new space.
It's so interesting, right? So it's almost like there's this order, right? But it's really hard to again, like, to go to the next level really with numbers without having done the work of going to the next level internally first. And you sense that sometimes maybe it's coming back. How do you do that?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not something you can solve like in one go. I think, whenever you're growing to the next level, then there's again a new thermostat, maybe, when you are stretching into something new, that discomfort of the ambitious goals is kind of coming again. But I think, well, one thing I'd love to leave you with is that today I don't kind of think of this discomfort as a sign that I should stop. But in
Yeah.
fact, it's evidence that I'm growing and that I need to continue. And this discomfort is a sign that you're actually moving to the next level. So that's what I would probably say.
Yeah, so good, right? I mean, discomfort is important. It can be a good sign, as you say. I love it.
It can. And
Okay.
how about number 5? Shall we go into that? Money as an unlimited resource. That's an interesting one too.
Well, so that's the third one for me, and really, it was one of the ones that once I see it, I could not unsee it. So it's about, yeah, indeed, money as an unlimited resource, the abundance mindset. So when I noticed the shift, when I was able to see this new perspective, it really felt like I was looking almost into an abyss, if I can say like that, really looking into the depth of the new perspective. And abundance, we hear a lot about it, so it's a subject that gets talked about, because also of the opposite, that would be, the scarcity mindset, which also gets talked about a lot. And especially when you start looking at money beliefs. But for me, it's true that it landed at a different level.
Mm-hmm. Was scarcity something like a familiar thing for you before that?
Yeah, I mean, you know me a bit. We've discussed that in previous money conversations. So for those who are new today, yes, it's true that for me, the scarcity mindset was quite deeply ingrained.
Mm.
And so it came with these sentences like "there's never enough," and actually, the reframe that I was offered with this new philosophy was that actually abundance, and in the sense of the holistic wealth, which is not just about the financial wealth, can be seen as something that would be available to every human being in a fair way, as we are humans. So
Mm-hmm.
it gets the spiritual dimension almost, and it's ready to be claimed throughout our human lives. And we can claim it provided we're open and receptive enough to actually receive it. So what it means is that it's not always there sitting, ready to be collected in financial terms, but it can be also in terms of money. And because if we go back to the other philosophy where we can create actually money with value that we're putting out there, it's actually looping back, because money becomes almost unlimited if I can create it, and also there's this like very fair, super abundant amount that I have available, then there's no more scarcity. It's all
Mm-hmm.
there.
Mm. Yeah, that's a lovely thought, isn't it, right?
So one way to look at it, I mean, that's a very American expression that came from lovely Brooke Castillo that I talk about quite a bit as well. She calls this idea of having this money available, like the one of having a financial escrow that we can, it's an abundance source of wealth that would be available somehow in our lives. It's waiting to be claimed. And I love this image because it means the work is really about being ready, but it also puts us in a position of being action oriented. It's not a passive, endeavor. And I think what is the most freeing about that as well, which goes again to show that that it's the opposite of the scarcity mindset, is that when I go to claim my own abundance, it doesn't take anything from anyone else. It's really about maybe the opposite. It's almost multiplying what's available rather than dividing it, because I can create it by creating more value. So I think that was really a turning point for me. And I don't think I can look at abundance now in the same way as before.
Yeah, I love that one. And I think to me, it's almost comes to that feeling of that safety, right? So no matter what, it will be okay. I have kind of this possibly like this financial escrow, or like the source of money that's available, right? That's kind of very calming,
And
right? I think.
and removing a bit the shame, right, of claiming it when we see an opportunity, because actually this one is for me. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it can. You really have to get to that like level of shift to see it in a way that even the words I'm using, I can see that some people could be judgy of that. But it's really this idea. If it's really reserved, like spiritually, for me, then I'm not taking from anyone, and I'm just gonna be using that to create more wealth around as well. So it's a
Yeah.
very positive
So it's a
thing.
very nice one. I think that's very positive.
Mhm.
And that's a very good one. So let's go to the last one, right? Which
Yeah,
is about committing to your financial goals, right?
yeah, and I
It's
think it's
the idea.
one that's nice to conclude with, right?
I think so. I think so. I mean, the idea is kind of simple in a way, but sometimes it's a bit of a hard lesson as well. Kind of most of us want financial success, but far fewer of us are actually committing to it. And the difference, there's really a big difference between wishing you had it or hoping that it would happen, or actually having a real commitment, a goal, and taking action.
Yeah.
And commitment is my last one, because I think this is where everything kind of comes together. You can have the knowledge, the confidence, the plan, but at some point you need to make that commitment that this goal really matters and that you're going to keep moving towards it no matter what, even when things feel uncertain. And that, I think, is the key point here.
Yeah, it's so important. So, what did commitment actually look like for you?
Well, I would say, like, for me, a big situation where it kind of came was when I left my corporate career, where I was earning a secure income to actually build a business, which was much more uncertain, but it was in something that I truly believing in, which is what we do, right? At Flourish Financially, helping women to become financially confident and independent. And there was no guarantee that this would work. And plenty of moments where, it would have been so much easier to stay in the familiar world. And that fear of, not being successful, losing my regular paycheck, all of those fears were there. But once I made that decision, I made that commitment. I stopped asking, should I do this? Should I not? I just started asking, okay, so how do I make this work? And that makes a huge difference. Commitment doesn't mean it's necessarily always easy, but it means that you've decided and you're not just negotiating with yourself anymore.
Yeah, I mean, we can hear you're a pro, because all these like mini prompts are so powerful, right? And they make a big difference. But where would you say then that this fits with embracing failure, for example?
Yeah, I mean, every meaningful goal, whatever you do, like, there's always going to be some setbacks. There's always going to be moments where you question yourself. Someone might see those moments of doubt as signs that, oh, you're not on the right path. But actually, you can see them. It's what I try to do, like, see them as feedback. Every setback teaches you something. And whatever kind of you're doing anyways, it's not going to be, how do you say, like, walking on the roses all the time, right? So there's always some part of it which feels like everything's in line and everything works out. 1/3 when it's so it's okay. And then there's like maybe the third of the time when it really feels miserable and you're like doubting what you're doing. But if you kind of expect this from the outset that it's going to happen, it's so much more easier to remember that this work is happening for you. The compounding, whatever you're doing, whether it's your finances or business, it's working in the background, right? So just keep on moving despite the lows, expect them. And I like to say, like, failure isn't the opposite of success, but it's part of the journey towards it.
Wow, so wise. Okay, so indeed, I mean, today we talked about 6 philosophies, 3
Mm-hmm.
of us, 3 each. We talked value creation, releasing resentment, abundance on my side. You talked about money as a multiplier, the importance of increasing the capacity, and as well commitment. So on your side was really powerful.
Yes, absolutely. And this is like an invitation, right, for yourself to kind of not necessarily to take all of those at once, but just like, get inspired, ask yourself which ones actually resonate with you and which are maybe also the old scripts that you might be ready to put down as a result.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a bit like clothing, right? That's what I like to do with certain thoughts. Here we're talking even about belief systems, so it's wider than that. But try to see if this fits you, if it fits like this moment in your life, this next chapter, this current chapter, the person you're trying to become. And that's really worth like sitting with a bit. So if you liked, I'm talking to the audience here, people maybe watching the replay, we're gonna close shortly, but we wanted to share even more philosophies with you. So we have compiled 10 of them, and today we covered some of those here, which is 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, and 9. So it's 6 among 10. There are 4 more that you can discover in this resource that we've created. It's a great guide. It re-explains the philosophy, and it also proposes short reflections that you can use to, journal about it, think about it, discuss if you want with other people, because we're all about the conversation here. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is really something which is kind of a choice, right? Which philosophy actually would support you, right? This is something that you can truly change, right? You can choose it. So ask yourself that, which one would you actually want to support you in your life after this?
Yeah. So that's where the freebie comes in again. Don't hesitate to get it, but also take it slowly. Really look at this with a pinch of salt. One philosophy at a time is already plenty, as you saw. It can go really deep,
Yes.
But it's also a really interesting shift potentially.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for everyone who has been with us for this hour and to celebrate our 20th Money Conversation. It's really, really nice to have seen you here. It means a lot to us. And of course, apologies for these technical issues in the beginning, but I think hopefully most of it was clear to hear.
No, of course, you solved it brilliantly as always. So same here, plenty of thanks from my side. 220 more, and also we are gonna come next time for our 21st Money Conversation at the end of August on the 27th. So stay tuned. We're gonna share more information about that as we get closer to the date. And we like to conclude by saying, as usual, keep flourishing, both financially, emotionally, and elsewhere. And I think that will be it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for everyone who was online. And we will see you again in the next Money Conversation.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mina. See you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.